Good morning, guys. Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer, functional aesthetics EC. So today I want to show you how you can fix a very common problem these days, which is butt pain. So if you're having this pain here in your butt, kind of in the little hollow depression or right up towards the top of your butt muscle there, I'm going to show you how you can get rid of that. Really simple, quick, and easy, very inexpensive way to do that. Okay, so first, before we get into the exercises, a little bit of background here. So the reason why most of the time you're having that pain in your butt is because of prolonged sitting, right? So you're sitting all the time like this, your hip flexors are shortened, your glutes are turned off, you're not using them because the function of your butt is to extend the hip and externally rotate it, and externally rotate your leg, right? So if you're sitting like this, it means you're not using it. It's shut off. You're sitting on all the nerves and stuff like that. It's not activated. You're not using that. So over time, because your butt muscles are not getting used, they start to become lazy. And when they become lazy, then it causes the other external rotators inside of your hip, such as your piriformis, and there's probably about 6 or 7 other external rotators underneath your butt muscle there. They have to start taking over the job of the butt because the butt has gotten lazy. Well, obviously, since the butt is the biggest muscle in your body, these little muscles are not designed to do the work that the butt does. They're a lot smaller and weaker. So if they have to start taking over for the butt, well, guess what happens? Now they become inflamed, irritated, and now you have this pain and tension there in that muscle because it's getting overworked, because the butt is not carrying its weight and sharing in the workload. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to show you what you can do to start rehabilitating this and get rid of that butt pain. Okay, so very simple thing. You start out, get a foam roller. They're not cheap actually, it's about 30 bucks to get one of these things, but definitely worth it if you use it. If you're going to frequently use it. So first what we want to do is a sequence that we use in corrective exercise, which is massage first to break up the tissues, to kind of loosen things up, start over from scratch. Then we're going to stretch it because it's now going to be more receptive to stretching once we've broken up all those adhesions in the muscles, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to roll on the butt. And now if you want to make this more effective, you can cross your leg over like this. You've probably seen a stretch where you cross your knee over. Well, that's a stretch where you're going to stretch the piriformis. But right now, you can also foam roll your piriformis like this. So if I show it from the front, basically what's going on is that to direct that pressure down on your piriformis, now you just want to kind of roll out to the outside here as you do that and get that rolling action on the piriformis there to loosen it up. Now, if you've got a lot of butt pain, it's really deep, you can either use, and this foam roller is kind of worn out. You might have to start getting a new one because it's not maintaining its elasticity, but there's also harder foam rollers than this. So once you progress to that and you're not feeling a lot of pain with that, you can get a harder foam roller and use that to help break that up even more. Now another thing you can do is really cheap. Take a tennis ball and you can stick that right there and work it around to really loosen up that tissue in there. Now, I would start out with the foam roller because it's not quite as penetrating as this ball is. But once you progress past the foam rollers, you can use this ball and ultimately you can go all the way up to using a baseball or something like that. Okay, so that's the massage portion of it. So you've loosened that area up to kind of relieve that stress and inflammation in that area. But now, if we don't want it to return right back to where it was, all tight and inflamed, now what we need to do is some stretching. All right, so there's 2 primary stretches that we want to do here. The first one, you've probably seen since middle school, grade school, whatever, if you played soccer and sports like that, is a glute stretch. Now you might not have known what it was doing, but basically what you need to do is bring your heel over the top, your knees kind of down and relaxed like this. Now, once you've gotten your heel up nice and high above your knee on the opposite leg, now you want to reach forward, pull it up towards your chest, and you should feel a nice deep stretch in your glute muscles on the back. Okay, so then after you've done that, you want to hold that, for anywhere between 10 to 30 seconds on that side. Release it, do the other side. And again, it's very important, do your foam rolling and stuff before you do that. It's going to make the stretching much more effective. Now the other stretch you want to do is a piriformis stretch. So the piriformis stretch, because the piriformis is one of your external rotators, what we're going to do here is you can bring your knee up like this and lay on your back and then push down like that. Now if you want to make it even more effective, we can show you a different stretch doing it in standing. You might need to hold on to something to stabilize yourself, or once you get enough proprioception and balance in your lower leg there, you can do it freestanding. Okay, so here's the piriformis stretch standing up. Same idea, but now you have the option to actually sink your body weight into it and get an even deeper stretch. What you can do as well is push down on your knee as you're doing that to get a really deep stretch there. Okay, so now that we've stretched everything out, now what we want to do is strengthen it. Okay, so now that we've stretched everything out, now what we want to do is strengthen the muscles. Because the reason why we had the pain to begin with is because we were sitting all the time. Our butt muscles became weak and lazy and underactive, and hence the piriformis was having to take over their job. Well, if we don't want that to come back, now that we've loosened everything up, if we just go back to doing our old habits, it's going to come right back, and we're going to have to do the whole sequence over and over and over again. So that ultimately the goal is to exercise, strengthen your butt so that you no longer have this pain, right? And if you do have a job where you're sitting 8-10 hours a day, you might have to do this stretching and stuff like that every day before you do your strengthening exercises, just to kind of retrain things and just keep it at bay. Because 8 to 10 hours of doing a repetitive posture is not going to be overcome, by just doing like an hour of a workout or a few minutes of some butt exercises or something like that. Now, these butt exercises will prevent it from getting worse, and it will greatly help it, but you're going to still probably need to do a little bit more stretching than the average Joe. All right, so first thing we want to do is, if your butt has become really weak and lazy, there are a lot of really good butt exercises you can do. However, such as, if you're doing deadlifts, if you're doing Romanian deadlifts, if you're doing hip bridges off of a bench or something like that, those are good exercises, but if you haven't been using your butt, your butt might not be activating properly, and you might be compensating with other muscles. So it's important to first focus on really lightweight, higher repetitions, to focus on activating that muscle, getting it turned on, so that when you do start exercising it with heavier weights to actually start strengthening it, that you are actually using those muscles. Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to stay on this rack like this, and you're going to externally rotate. So remember, the function of the butt is to extend the hip and externally rotate. But there's not a lot of range of motion there. So a common compensation pattern that people will often use is to extend their lower back when they're doing this. So instead of extending the lower back to get the leg up there, you want to keep your lower back rounded by rolling your hips under, lock your knee out, and then extend behind you. And as soon as you start feeling like your lower back is starting to have to arch, that's where you stop. So about like here. This is the range of motion. Now once you become comfortable with doing that, then we'll add a little turning your toe out to rotate your leg out to the side. And you'll do about 15 repetitions of this. All right, so after you do that for about a week, doing it at least 3 to 4 times a week, a set of 15 repetitions on each leg, at least 1 time per day, then you should be able to start progressing to doing more advanced butt work, which we'll show you in the next exercise, which is the hip bridge. Another important thing to point out is that in the body there are things called force couples. So you will have a muscle on one side of a joint that does one thing, such as like in your biceps. So your bicep bends your elbow like this, flexes your elbow, and then your tricep extends your elbow, right? So when the bicep is working, the tricep has to relax. Well, if you're sitting all day, your hip flexors on the front side of your hips, those are the ones that pull you down in the front like this, right? And then your butt is relaxed on this side. Well, your butt, if it contracts, pulls your hips back like that. So what we want to first do to make sure that the butt is able to activate fully is to stretch out your hip flexors. But first we want to start off with that massage technique. So placing the foam roller at about the angle so that's at the crease of your groin here. Get on it like that and kind of tip your hips off to one side to really angle down there and get that hip flexor. Now, you want to do that about 30 seconds on each side, and then after you've done that, now we want to do a hip flexor stretch. Okay, so the hip flexor stretch. What you're going to do is step out in a lunge position, push your hips forward, so try to rotate your butt underneath. As you bend your knee, drop down to the ground like this. Okay? Now once you're in this position, you're going to squeeze your butt muscle really hard and push your hips straight forward. So you see how my knee is just kind of coming straight like this? Don't lean forward like this because this is going to take the tension off of the hip flexor. What you want to do is keep your torso up nice and straight. Push through the hip flexors so it's going straight like this. Keep that contraction there. Hold it for 30 seconds. Continue to breathe while you're doing this 30-second contraction. Repeat on the other side, 30 seconds per side. Do that at least one time per day. So this is a good thing to do when you're doing the foam rolling for the butt, the stretching for the butt, do the foam rolling for the hip flexors, and the stretching for the hip flexors while you're doing that for that first week. The second week, provided you've been consistent, now you want to start doing that activation exercise for the glutes. Then once you're done with that, then you want to do our next exercise, which is the hip bridge. Okay, so you're going to take in a deep breath and then roll your shoulders down the back, try to pinch your shoulder blades together in your upper body, and then in your lower body, push through the middle of your feet and squeeze your butt at the top to really try to push your hip area up towards the ceiling. And to begin with, you're just going to start out by holding that position for 30 seconds at a time. So just sitting here. Hold that contraction 30 seconds at a time right there. All right, so now after you've done that, then for the next week, 30 seconds per day, at least one time per day, holding that contraction. That's going to help to activate, strengthen those glute muscles. Once you've been doing that for a while, you can then progress it to work on that side-to-side stability. You can do one leg, right? So have one leg down and just use one leg to go up and down, right? And pause for a second at the top of each contraction. And try to keep your hips under when you do this. Don't arch your lower back when you do it. Then, once that's become easy enough, then you can take a barbell, wrap a towel around it, like something like that. You're going to put your upper back. I'll show you actually. Get the bench set up here in a minute. Alright, for the hip bridge, you can actually go quite heavy with this. So think like the weights you're using for like deadlifts and stuff like that. You can go pretty heavy. Now, but in the beginning, you want to start out with, a weight that you can feel. So you can also go pretty high volume. So 10 to 15 repetitions on this exercise here, as the butt muscle is designed for endurance. So in the beginning though, you want to focus with that lighter weight to make sure that you're really perfecting your technique, really feeling the muscle contract at the top of each rep, not just slinging the weight up and down. And then as you become more comfortable with that, gradually start increasing the weight, and just see how much weight you can get going with this. All right, so you kind of put it in the crook in your hips here, and if you're using a lot of weight, it's going to be very uncomfortable in the hip flexors like that, so you're going to want to put some padding there. But this is pretty lightweight here, got about 60 pounds. And then you're just gonna sit here like this, push up through the top. Like so. And you might want to have somebody to help spot you if you are using that heavy weight like that, because as you saw, it's a little bit cumbersome trying to get off there, and you've got 300 pounds on there. You don't want to just flying off and clattering all over the floor. Alright guys, so that in a nutshell is how you can help relieve that pain in your butt from sitting too much. Even just the massage and the stretching will probably help, but of course you want to work on the strengthening as well so that you eliminate the reason why you're having the pain to begin with, which is weak butt muscles. Okay guys, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button below, leave me some comments, let me know what you thought of the video. If you think this video could help a friend of yours who is suffering from butt pain or something like that, share the video with them, and we'll see you all next time for more health and fitness related information. Thanks guys for watching. I'll see you all next time.